Welcome back, focused learners. Today, we're diving into the explosive growth of a company that's quietly engineering a massive shift in a critical sector. We're talking about Krishna Defense and Allied Industries Limited, or KDAIL for short. In this explainer, we're going to trace the fascinating journey of how a business transforms from making standard steel components into literally engineering the future of India's maritime and naval defense. So let's just jump right in. I want to kick things off by asking you a really simple but honestly often overlooked question. When you hear about these massive national defense budgets and sweeping modernization programs, who is actually out there physically building that future? We all hear the top-line numbers in the news, but the real story? That happens right on the factory floor. Think about India's rapidly expanding maritime fleet for a second. It's companies exactly like KDIL that are outfitting these massive ships. They're the ones taking these high-level, abstract strategic concepts and turning them into real-world steel, incredibly sophisticated components, and tactical innovations. To truly wrap our heads around this company, we need to look at the environment they operate in and the strategic moves they're making. Here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, India's defense manufacturing boom. Second, meet Krishna Defense. Third, expanding the arsenal. Fourth, record-breaking financial performance. And finally, the future pipeline. All right, starting with number 1, India's defense manufacturing boom. To understand KDIL's trajectory, we really have to zoom out and look at the sheer volume of capital flooding into this space. Try to wrap your head around this number. 8.45 trillion Indian rupees. That represents the defense acquisitions approved by the Defense Acquisition Council just for the fiscal years 2022 to 2025. To put that into perspective for you, that is an absolutely massive 3.3 times increase over the previous 3 years. So we aren't just talking about incremental growth here. This is a total paradigm shift in domestic defense spending. And if we narrow that focus down specifically to the maritime sector, there is an expected 2.35 trillion rupees in upcoming mega shipbuilding orders slated for FY26 and FY27. The market tailwinds right now are absolutely historic for domestic manufacturers. I mean, it represents a 3.1 times multiple of the current order books for listed defense shipyards. The pie isn't just growing, it is getting massively larger. Which brings us perfectly to our second section, Meet Krishna Defense. So how exactly does a company position itself to grab a slice of a multi-trillion rupee pie? Well, you'll look at their evolution. They definitely didn't start out as a high-tech underwater robotics company, right? They were actually founded back in 1997 by the late Mr. Ashwin N. Shah in Kalol, Gujarat, starting with a really small investment and a tiny team, just manufacturing stainless steel products. But through sheer process innovation, rigorous quality control, and developing products in-house, they've evolved into this vertically integrated powerhouse. Today, they're supplying mission-critical systems to both the Indian Navy and Army. And looking forward, they're stepping right into the future of warfare with autonomous underwater systems. Their core business model is honestly a textbook example of how to align perfectly with national strategic priorities. They are totally synced up with the Make in India vision. The absolute key here is their focus on indigenization and import substitution. You see, they aren't just assembling foreign parts. They're taking advanced technology, sometimes through tech transfers from organizations like DRDO, and building truly indigenous solutions. By manufacturing these critical defense products in-house, they're helping cut down India's reliance on imports. Plus, being an approved, officially registered vendor for defense products, that gives them a massive, massive competitive moat. Moving right along to Section 3, Expanding the Arsenal. So what exactly are they building to capture all this market momentum? It's fascinating when you think about the contrast. On one hand, you have the grit of heavy manufacturing, deep expertise in special steel alloys and precision welding. But then you have the final application, a highly sophisticated submarine silently navigating the ocean depths. KDAL literally acts as the bridge between that raw industrial capacity and highly specialized tactical military hardware. And they are aggressively expanding way beyond their legacy products. Just looking at their Q1 FY27 highlights is pretty eye-opening. First up, they established X-Sub Robotics to develop autonomous underwater vehicles, which are essentially high-tech underwater drones. Second, they grabbed a near 47% strategic stake in Tarabad Car Solutions, scoring a 250 million rupee grant from the Indian Navy to develop next-generation smart naval ammunition. Third, They're setting up a brand new facility with Weibo to create advanced composite doors. And to top it all off, they're now supplying ready-to-use components for military tank fabrication. They're basically attacking the defense sector from multiple high-tech angles all at once.
Let's talk numbers in Section 4, record-breaking financial performance. So how is all this aggressive strategic expansion actually translating into financial results? The trajectory here is pretty undeniable. KDIL's operating revenue was 499 million rupees back in FY22. Fast forward to FY24, they smashed past the 1 billion mark, and by FY26, they reached nearly 2.45 billion rupees. That is some incredibly rapid scaling growth, all driven by the successful execution of that indigenization strategy we talked about earlier. But honestly, even more staggering than the revenue growth is this mind-blowing number. A 102.4% compound annual growth rate in net profit from FY22 to FY26. Let that sink in for a second. While their revenue definitely grew substantially, their profitability just absolutely exploded, rocketing from around 25 million to over 413 million rupees. What this tells us is that as they grow, they aren't just selling more stuff. They're strategically shifting their mix toward much higher margin, highly specialized defense products. And we're seeing this impressive margin expansion continue right into the present. In their latest Q1 FY27 standalone metrics, there's actually a year-over-year revenue dip of about 15%. But the bottom line, that's a completely different story. Despite bringing in less top-line revenue for the quarter, they managed to hit their highest ever EBITDA and net profit margins. EBITDA grew over 20%, and net profit jumped almost 33% year-over-year, hitting 117 million rupees. They are just getting incredibly efficient and profitable in how they operate. Now, let's wrap things up with Section 5, the future pipeline. With those strong margins and their newly expanded capabilities, the foundation for their future looks rock solid. As of June 30th, 2026, KDIL is sitting on an unexecuted order book of 1.17 billion rupees. So that's locked-in future revenue, ready to go. But the real staggering potential lies in their tender pipeline, which currently stands at a massive 2.89 billion rupees. That represents a ton of robust opportunities they're actively chasing down across shipbuilding, smart ammunition, and those underwater systems. So I want to leave you with a provocative thought to chew on. We've traced KDIL's incredible journey today, watching them evolve from a small 1997 steel fabricator in Gujarat into a dynamic company co-developing smart naval ammunition and robotic submarines. As Krishna Defense continues to push the boundaries of cutting-edge autonomous underwater systems, what does their rapid rise and their proven ability to indigenize such complex tech really signal for the future balance of the global defense manufacturing ecosystem? It's a fascinating shift to watch for sure. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll see you next time.